In this tutorial video, I'm going to show you how to fill type with picture. It's important when you do this that if you are going to use this in a print project, that you choose a baseline image that is high res, that's 300 dpi. If you're going to use it on the web, you can start with an image that's low res, that's 72 dpi. I've gone ahead and opened up an image that is a low-res JPEG, the American flag here. You'll take a look at the layers palette and you'll see that we have one background layer. First thing I need to do is I actually need to make an additional layer underneath here that is a blank layer. In order to do that, first I am going to unlock this background layer by double-clicking on the layer. I get the new layer dialog box. It just wants me to rename. I'm going to tell it OK. As soon as it's not named background anymore, it's no longer locked. You notice the little lock icon is gone. I'm going to create an additional layer, a blank one. I'm just going to simply go down to the bottom of my layers palette and click on the create new layer icon. If I click on that once, I'll get a brand new blank layer. I actually want the new layer, empty layer underneath my flag layer, so I am going to click on its icon and I'm just going to drag it below layer 0. Now I'm going to go back and click on, I'm still in my layers palette, I'm going to click on my fill image, my flag icon, to make that the active layer. Now I'm going to create the type that is going to be filled. To do that, I'm going to go over to my toolbox and I'm going to grab my type tool. It's the letter T in the toolbox. Then I'm going to come down into my document window and I am going to click and drag a very large text box. Now, when I make a text box, it makes its own layer by default, and it should put it at the top of the stack. If it did not get put at the top of the stack, you're going to want to drag it up and put it there. You can always double-click on it to reactivate it to get your cursor back inside. I am going to choose a font for my typing. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type something appropriate for the inside of an American flag. I'm going to type vote. It's a good idea to use a font that is sans serif and very, very thick. I have chosen Impact, and I'm actually going to make this bigger. I'm going to use Photoshop's little scrubby slider here to drag this as big as my box. I've also got a type color, you'll notice, in the control palette up here of white. If you've got something you can't see, you might change this to something, but frankly, what color is there is not going to matter because that's going to go away in just a second. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go over to my toolbox and click my Move tool just to deselect. Position that where I want it to. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do what we call load the selection. That means I'm going to make a selection around my word, each of the individual letters. In order to do that, I'm going over to my layers palette. I am going to hold down my command key, which is the Apple key on your keyboard. I'm going to hold down that key and I'm going to click on the icon for the vote layer. That's the box with the T in it. That is the icon. If I hold on that Apple key and click on that, you see that it makes a selection around my letters. Now, and don't freak out about this, I'm going to delete the vote layer. I no longer need it. I just needed it to make the selection. To delete it, I am going to click on its icon and drag it to the trash can at the bottom of the layers palette. Selection's still there, but the layer's gone, so don't deselect anything here. Next thing we need to do, the next layer that should be selected is the flag layer. All we have to do at this point is we're going to go down to the bottom of the layers palette and we're going to use that selection to create a layer mask. The bottom of your layers palette is the icon that's the little box with a circle in the middle of it. That's your create layer mask. You just click that button and it should go ahead and it should hide everything that wasn't selected. So now we have type filled with the flag. Now if you don't quite like the way that it positioned itself, because some of the little white is a little hard to see in the edges, what you can do is go to the control palette, or rather the layers palette, and unlink the two. If you unlink the two, you can actually click on either the flag or on the mask and use your Move tool and move them around. You get a little bit better positioning. Maybe you can see things a little bit better. Another way to make this just a little bit more visible, easy to see, is if you actually create a little tiny bit of a drop shadow underneath that. If you want to create a drop shadow for readability, you want to click on that top layer, the flag and the mask layer, and go down to the bottom of the layers palette, and there's a little FX icon, and that is for effects. If you click on that and choose drop shadow, you'll get a dialog box. Dialog box that looks like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Drop Shadow on, and I may have to play with my settings just a little bit and increase the distance or the spread, whatever I need to do to make my text just a little bit more readable. Darken it just a little bit, tell it OK. And that is filling type with picture using the Layers palette and layer masks.